Hey guys, welcome to another edition of GamingNIght. Tonight I'm going to be doing a review on Splatterhouse for the PS3. It's also available on the Xbox 360. The only difference, from what I understand, is the graphics on the PS3 are a little bit better, according to Lens of Truth. So I'm not going to go into details with that, of which game system's better, so we'll leave it at that. I have it on the PS3. This game, Splatterhouse, was originally an arcade game in Japan. It was basically a side-scrolling beat 'em up game, hack and slash, however you want to call it, that originally got ported over to the TurboGrafx 16, where they made some minor detail changes and it was censored a little bit due to the graphic nature and everything in the game. And then later on, there was a sequel for Splatterhouse 2 that was, I believe, also on the TurboGrafx 16, if I'm not mistaken. And then later on, I believe the Genesis made its debut of Splatterhouse was for the PS3, exclusively for the Genesis. Don't quote me on that because I remember playing the Splatterhouse 3 on the Sega Genesis. So anyways, now I'm going to throw out the word repetitive here, and it's going to be, I'm going to state why. As a gaming term, repetitiveness is irrelevant when it comes to game reviews for me, because quite simply the classic games like Pac-Man, Pitfall and all them, they all repetitive. You know, you jump, like Pitfall, you'd be jumping around, doing the same thing. It'd just be the level layout would be different, but essentially you're doing the same thing. Pac-Man, you're going around the board eating dots and collecting goats. So for me, the word repetitive is irrelevant to my review of Splatterhouse. I'm not going to be focusing on that right now. So if repetitiveness bothers you, then I would seek elsewhere for gameplay. Now, Splatterhouse is got a good cast. Specifically, Jim Cummings as the mask. I really like the humor in this game. It kind of sets the mood for the B horror movie kind of feel here. They're making the game makes a lot of references to other classic horror movies, characters. It even makes a joke about itself being really bloody, and makes comments about the rating system and how this is why it got the M rating. Because just like one scene happens and all of a sudden the mask makes this comment about this is why it's rated M for mature. I thought that was kind of funny. But essentially, the way the game's is it's a 3D style game where there is some exploration, but you're basically going to be going from point A to point B, knocking off enemies, and in many ways that you could possibly do it. There are some puzzle elements where you might have to pull switches, like in God of War. Manipulate using enemies in certain environments to open doors. So essentially, certain things get triggered if you will do certain things in the environment. Like, for example, there is a room where you start knocking off some of these monsters that are coming at you, and then these little skull thingies start lowering on chains down, and then eventually you get to the point where they'll spit out a little spike, and basically what you're going to have to do is you're going to be throwing their monsters and impaling them on the spikes so that the monster's bloody goodiness drips into the gears and fuels the engine. So you're basically going to be doing that on some areas are going to be like that, to where to open doors and stuff like that. And along the way, you're going to find staple weapons like the shotgun, the cleaver, 2x4, and all these things that made the original Splatterhouse. And there are some side-scrolling elements in the game that are kind of like, a 3D environment, kind of like a 3D effect to them, but it is essentially a 2D side-scrolling like the original game was. So, and it's kind of nice how they have the nods to how the game was, because they took the 2D game and they basically made it so when you're hitting guys, and instead of just hitting the back wall, they're hitting the foreground and the background. So when you're hitting them with 2x4s and stuff like that, And essentially, Splatterhouse is a really, if you're into horror movies, they've done so many, like, especially the H.P. Lovecraft, they're doing, like, there's a lot of H.P. Lovecraft references, especially from the Reanimator. There's some Evil Dead references, especially, like, the Evil Dead 2. So if you're a fan of Evil Dead, they got references to those. I mean, in practically any kind of horror movie I could think of. There's even was a Terminator 2 reference in there, too, on one scene. Kind of in a sense, that kind of felt like that. So now we're going to talk about the combat system. It's really nice. I like how it works. You basically, it's like God of War, where you get points. Like how you got orbs. This one you get plasma. You basically get plasma from killing them. And the more gruesome the attack, you get more points. Well, instead of like God of War, you basically would highlight it, it would fill up the meter, and then you can go on another one. This one you have points, so once you accumulate that points, you can spend it on anything that's unlocked that's available for that time. So there's certain points in the game where new skills are going to be available, so you can't really put in anything to any of them right at the moment. So you'll start out with basic attacks, then you can start. Maybe you want to increase your hit points, so it's kind of got that little build your characters you want kind of aspect. But unlike God of War, if you get like 5,000 points, and then you went from 0 to 5,000, your character died, you'd lose all that. Or if you gained an ability before you got to save, you'd lose it. It seems like this game is constantly saving in the background, so when you do die, your progression isn't lost when it comes to skill points or abilities. Because essentially in the game, you're going to be fighting bosses and stuff, and some of these are like God of War type bosses. If you don't have a certain ability, it's going to be a lot harder. So it's kind of like if you die at this boss battle, you get to obtain all your ability, your XP, to basically put it into what you're going to need. So there's no way in the game where you're going to physically get stuck by not having a certain ability at a certain time. So it's kind of forgiving in that sense, but the difficulty can be pretty hard. It all depends on how much of a gamer you are. If you're like an expert gamer, you might not have no issues with it. It all depends. But me, I'm a casual gamer, if you want to call it that. I like all kinds of video games, but I just not like a pro status where, kind of thing. But I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to say one particular gamer is better than another particular gamer. So with that going on, the feel for it, then we go to the sound. The sound, you got to mix between like the retro style music that they kind of like took like the regular music in the Splatterhouse games and kind of mixed it with a kind of a new kind of sound, but at the same time it didn't take away from the old feel for it. But then there's moments when you also have heavy metal, rock and roll glaring and stuff during the battle, so it's kind of balanced. There's not too much of one. The music doesn't really drown out anything in the game. It just kind of adds atmosphere that give you the adrenaline rush or create a certain feeling for it. So I thought that was a nice touch. Now, for all you fans of the classic Splatterhouse, there are unlockables. As you progress in the game, you get to certain chapters, you start unlocking the original classic 3 Splatterhouses. The original arcade one, not the one that was for the TurboGrafx 16, but the uncensored version due to graphic nature and all that stuff. And then the second Splatterhouse, and finally the one that was the Splatterhouse 3 that was on the Sega Genesis that I remember playing. So they're all there. They're all emulated. So those that never got the chance to play them will get a chance to play them. So I really do enjoy this game. I think it's going to be a mixed bag for some of you, and as far as reviewing goes, because of the fact that it doesn't break any new grounds, and being that it's gory, it may turn off some gamers, so I'm thinking it's going to get a lower rating than typically just because of those two factors. But if you're looking for a nice, cool horror beat-em-up that has some retro elements in it, I definitely would recommend Splatterhouse. Otherwise, it might be worth a rental for you at least to see if you are interested in it, and then go out and purchase it. But for me, this was a purchase definitely worth it. And this game does not disappoint me in any way whatsoever. it goes beyond what I expected it to be, because usually when games are originally side-scrolling and they get ported to 3D, it loses something. But for me, this one did a really great job at what it set out to do. So once again, thanks for watching, and hopefully this review wasn't too long. I try to keep it as short as I can. So you guys, thanks again for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time.